This is Cutting Down the Nets, Wednesday, March 8th. It's the best time of the year. We are headed down the stretch. The quality of basketball is going to start going up as teams fall off and tournaments advance. So I think we'll peak around today, tomorrow, and then the schedule gets pretty light right up until Selection Sunday when we open our Christmas presents. For the year, it's sitting at 52%. Don't love it. But you can file any play I've made on BetStamp, user ID CDTN. The spreadsheet you're seeing in this video is posted daily to Twitter at CDTN_Paddy. So what Paddy is a recent efficiency model. Basically think like what KenPom does, but pretend the season started in early to mid-January instead of November. And I just ignore the first half of the season, roughly. It's got an algorithm to it that weights things a certain way. And then I run a median of that same model. So Paddy is an average, median is a median. The average kind of captures ceiling and floor a little better. And then median is, that midpoint type of projection. We're comparing that against year-to-date numbers from like Torvik and KenPom, as well as shot quality numbers. So today's schedule, we'll start at the top, not in the middle. I played UTSA, plus 6.5. These teams split the regular season. The matchup's fairly neutral. So I have UTSA in recent efficiencies as a slight teeny bit favorite. Shot quality year-to-date is around the line. Recent is trending more towards the Roadrunners. So I made the play at plus 6.5, getting more than 2 possessions. Boston College, North Carolina. This line really went up. I think a soft opener was around 8.5, 8. Then it was a 9.5, and then came back this morning up even a couple more points. So I think this is top, but maybe not. Maybe it goes a little higher. But just looking at recent adjusted efficiencies, looking at shot quality, I think you're just paying a tax or a premium on the narrative of a must-win game for North Carolina, or the narrative of it's March against North Carolina is just going to turn it on, when really, they played well down the stretch last year, but basically no one made a shot, so it kind of happens sometimes. A yellow game, Ohio State, Wisconsin. I'm not one to believe that Ohio State is quote-unquote fixed after winning just like 2 home games late against quality opponents, but that's going to happen even with cellar dwellers in conferences where it's they won a couple home games late in the year. So I have Wisconsin by about a possession, so it's not glaring right now. Shot quality has this pretty close, so I'm just curious what the line will do here, so I'm watching at this point. I hate Wisconsin. So, sorry to all your Wisconsin fans, but I'll move on. Okay. Keshawn Gilbert is out for UNLV. He's suspended. He is their point guard. They'll square off against Air Force. So even with him, I was probably on Air Force. I don't, factor his absence in all that much. I'm sure a lot of people do. I think there are certainly players in the country that are worth points to the spread. I'm not sure that he is. So most books were at a 6 when I had to make a decision, and there was a heavily juiced 7 out there. So if you're wondering, how do you get a 7? Just know I paid an obscene tax for it, 17 cents instead of 10 cents. So what you have here is a high variance game. Air Force attempts 45% of their attempts are from 3, and UNLV funnels to the 3-point line with a high defensive 3-point rate. So going to be a lot of 3 attempts for Air Force. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's typically an Air Force game. They do play slow, so if they can just get a lead, we can start to bleed towards that 7, which I like. Minnesota, Nebraska, tricky one. Technically, both played better down the stretch, but the middle of the year, these teams looked real bad. But shot quality and Paddy are on opposite sides here, so I'll just kind of monitor that line. Next game is Georgia Tech and Pittsburgh. I have this under a possession. The line is greater than 2 possessions, so I have an interest. Shot quality is pretty close to the line, but Pitt swept season series 11 and 8-point victories for them. It's an OR edge for Pitt. It's a slow pace, but I just have a feeling this line could go up, as it should, probably. Both teams have had some recent performances that are inflating their numbers, so I'm not, like Georgia Tech had the game against Syracuse that kind of lifted their profile, but Pitt's had some games down the stretch as well that kind of lifted their profile, so I think that kind of washes out. This seems fair to me from a Paddy standpoint, and certainly leaning Georgia Tech. I just don't know if I feel like backing Georgia Tech. Some orange games here. So Delaware State, NC Central, major turnover and offensive rebound edges for NC Central, but there's just not much pace. This is a slow-paced game, so covering double digits in a slow-paced game is tough for me to back. They did win the only 2 games in the regular season by 19 and 8, but in that 8-point win, Delaware State was 0-16 from 3. So, yeah, take that for what it's worth. 2 gross teams, Mississippi and South Carolina. This is going to set basketball back. Mississippi can get good shots. It's like pretty clear right now they don't have a shot maker on the team, but they do have an offensive rebound edge, and that's good because they miss a lot of shots. But this is going to be a disgusting game. So Paddy leans South Carolina. I do not think I can back the South Carolina offense at all. So South Carolina State at Howard. Howard won the only game between these 2 teams by 26, but if you look at their profile, they haven't missed since like January 7th. Like if you look January 7th on, all their 3-point performances are green. Prior to that, they were red or white for like neutral. So I think we could call top on Howard, but yeah, I don't know. But that's driving the Paddy number. Significant amount of turnovers and offensive rebounds on both sides. What I mean by that is like both are bottom 40-ish in ball protection. Both are top 40-ish in forcing turnovers. Both are top 40-ish in offensive rebounds, and both are bottom 40th in defensive rebounds. So kind of a interesting, you might see some interesting box scores there is what I'm getting at. All right, Northern Arizona, Montana State. I'm sure people will find narratives here. I try to avoid them and focus on the data, but this is the 4th game in 5 days for Northern Arizona. They played Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, and then today. And then Montana State off the double overtime grinder against Weber State. Montana State does apply ball pressure. Northern Arizona can negate that. Northern Arizona can't defend like Montana State, but Northern Arizona has some shooters. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So at 6.5, I'm like, I'm sitting, but that number gets any bigger, I'll probably play the Northern Arizona side. Oklahoma State. This is probably a nostalgia play for me with Porter Moser and Groves in a tourney setting. But Chuckwaldy has this like Okie State minus 2-ish. The line's minus 1.5, 2-ish. And I have Oklahoma by like 1 or 2-ish. So it's pretty much a toss-up. Game can't end in a tie. So, yeah, I think Avery Anderson is back too, which I think matters a little bit. Certainly wouldn't help if you're betting the Oklahoma side. And one thing to note, Oklahoma State's pretty sloppy with the ball, but Oklahoma does not apply ball pressure. Some gray games, they're gray because Paddy median is on one side and the line's on the other, or it's just like super close, or we're getting down to where there's not much value there. So Wyoming, New Mexico is the last game. I did play it begrudgingly. It's just a data play. Shot quality just loves Wyoming. So a little bit of free fall from New Mexico down the stretch. They didn't really play all that differently, but certainly stopped running pure from the 3-point defensive standpoint, which happens because 3-point defense, by all accounts and research, is mainly luck. There's a few teams that probably could matter if you're super long or schematically like close out hard, but in general, like it's pretty lucky. KenPom has done some research on that. So I have this like around 5 points, so it's a little bit of value, but we're getting thin here. So it's more of a shot quality lean than anything. And with teams like New Mexico that have such an obscene home court advantage, I think in general those teams' profiles just get lifted as a whole And then when you put them in a neutral setting, it's far, far different. So this is what my card looks like on the left. I have played those 4 games, UTSA, BC, Air Force, and the Cowboys. I am considering, so kind of my pool is adding some from the right-hand side, and I've mentioned my thoughts as to why or why not. I may go there. So, what's left? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Sunday night, we will open our presents. What this looks like for me, I'll probably do 3 to 4 shows next week in between Selection Sunday and the tournament. So stay tuned for those. This is Cutting Down the Nets.